statutory funds, tax expense po dapat na po yan, and of course the net surplus for distribution of the interest on share capital and patronage fund. So in-include lang po natin, although some cooperatives are doing this already, but we have that in our TFRF so that everybody can see. Okay? Now, on the analysis of expenses, based on the function of expenses, wala po tayong pagbabagong ginawa dito. And on the accounts peculiar to cooperatives affecting the statement of operations, na a cooperative shall disclose the following income and expenses separately. So, ano po ito? Kanya, nilagay po natin ang statement natin ito dahil meron tayo mga-other income account. No? These other project subsidy, the optional fund subsidy, donation and grant subsidy, education and training fund subsidy, subsidized project expense, and the CEPF subsidy. Yesterday, these things were discussed also. No? And the other expense account naman po, ito yung provision for cooperative fund or PDGF, the members' benefit expense, incidental expenses, the general assembly meeting, affiliation fee, the social and community expense. Now, for the allocation and distribution of surplus, that surplus of cooperatives is still distributed in accordance with the provisions of Articles 85 and 86 of RA 9520 or the Code. So, wala pong pagbabago doon, no? Still, there should be a disclosure in the revenue account on the amount of revenue or sales made to members and non-members. I think yesterday this was emphasized. Kanya, andito po sa section 6 on the disclosure, dun sa mga sales, no? Made to members and non-members, they should be disclosed, no, in the revenue account on the amount of revenues or sales made to members and non-members. Kahapon na natalakay ito ng medyo lengthy discussion. No? Kaya yan po ay ididagdag na natin as part of our amendment in this PFRF. There should be a disclosure of this one. Now, regarding the statement of changes in equity, statutory funds, contribution, and grants, this chapter sets out the requirements for presenting the changes in equity for a period in a statement of changes in equity, statutory funds, and donations and grants. So, wala po siyang masyadong pagbabago. The content and presentation is still the same. The purpose is still the same, no? Which presents the amounts of investments and withdrawals by members, addition and utilization of statutory funds, the movement in donations and funds, and revaluation surplus. No? Kung meron man po kayo revaluation surplus during the period. Now, on the information to be presented in the statement of changes in equity, walang masyadong malaking pagbabago po dito other than the additions of the movements in the net unrealized gains, losses on investments, as well as the movements in restricted capital for surety because meron na po tayo mga CSM ngayon, and the movement in fund balances, this pertains of course to union. No? Kanya, itinagdag po natin. Okay? Now, for the statement of cash flow naman po, this chapter sets out the information that is to be presented in a statement of cash flow and how to present it. Now, the statement of cash flow provides information about the changes in cash and cash equivalents of the cooperative for a reporting period, showing separately changes from operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. Now, ito pong statement of cash flow natin is just the same, still you have to present, no? Separately, ano-ano ba what affects the operating activities, the investing activities, and financing activities. Now, for your guidance, yung ating mga cash equivalents in the statement of cash flows, cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investment held to meet short-term cash commitments rather than for investments or other purposes. So therefore, an investment normally qualifies as a cash equivalent only when it has a short maturity of, say, 3 months or less from the date of acquisition. Now, for the information to be presented the statement of cash flow, as I said a while ago, they should present the movements in the cash and cash equivalent for a reporting period classified into tatlo po yan, the operating activities, investing activities, and the financing activities. Now, for your guidance, ano ba itong mga operating activities na sinasabi natin? So, operating activities are the principal revenue-producing activity of the cooperative. So, kumbaga, ito yung normal course of business activities na cooperative. Therefore, cash flows from operating activities generally results from the transactions and other events and conditions that enter into the determination of profit or loss, surplus or loss. No? Kanya, ano po ba yung mga examples natin ng mga operating activities ng mga cash flows natin? Of course, ito yung cash receipts from sale of goods, no? The interest, the penalties, and other charges on loan receivables and rendering of service. Also, cash receipts from royalties, fees, commissions, and other revenue. So these are examples, no, for your guidance. Okay, and of course, cash payments for the suppliers for goods and services, cash payments too, and on behalf of employees. Also, meron tayong sample na cash payments for income tax, and that is applicable. And cash receipts and payments from investment, loans, and other contracts held for dealing or trading purposes, which are similar to inventory acquired specifically for resale. Kanya, kung mapapansin nyo po, wala naman tayong pagbabagong ginawa dito, no? On its inclusions, examples, and definition. Now, the other type of activity in the cash flow is what we call the investing activities. And these are the acquisition and disposal of long-term assets and other investments not included in cash equivalents. Now, may mga sample po tayo dito ng mga investing activities. Ano ba yan? So, an example of this is cash payment. So, acquire property, plant, and equipment. So, hindi siya operating activity, hindi normal ito. No? Kanya investing activity po siya because when we acquire property, plant, and equipment, this is included as cash flow of investing activity, also intangible assets and other long-term assets. Another sample of that is cash receipts from sale of property, plant, and equipment, intangible and other long-term. Ito naman pagka binenta mo. Kanina, nag-acquire tayo, ito naman binenta mo. So these are investing activities. Also, cash payments to acquire equity or debt instruments of other co-op and interest in joint ventures. Now, kasama pa rin po yan sa ating mga examples, no? Inclusions on the investment activities. And cash receipts from sales of equity or debt instruments of other cooperative and interest in joint ventures. So, still, dati na po mga examples and inclusions yan sa ating investing activities. Now, the third activity in the statement of cash flow is what we call the financing activities. Ano naman po itong mga financing activities na to, no? Just the same, wala po tayong binago sa kanya inclusions or definitions in the size and composition of the members' equity and borrowings. The effect of borrowings of a cooperative is our financing activities. No? So, may mga examples pa rin po tayo dyan. Examples na po yan. Yung cash proceeds natin from issue to with shares. Of course, this affects our equity, no? And the cash proceeds from loans, notes, mortgages, and other short-term or long-term borrowing. Kaya nakaka-affect po yan sa ating members' equity and borrowings sa ating kooperatiba. That's why they are called financing activities. And further example includes cash payment of amounts borrowed. Pagka nagbayad na tayo, syempre kasama yan po sa ating outflow of cash. The cash payments by a less for the reduction of the outstanding liability relating to a finance lease. The cash payment for interest on share capital and maturities with one. Kanya financing activity dahil nagbabayad tayo dito sa ating membro. because of their shares. No? And of course, the utilization of the subject funds. Now, in report activities kanina, again, ang mga operating activities natin, ito yung normal course ng ating pag-negosyo sa ating kooperatiba. No? You can present them using either the indirect method or the direct method. Now, indirect method and direct method, ganun pa rin po. Wala tayong pagbabago on its principles or documentation, kung indirect yan or direct. No? Wala tayo pong ginagawang amendment dito. Even in the very detailed examples of an indirect method on its inclusion, pareho lang po, ganun din sa kanyang direct method. On the reporting cash flows from investing and financing activities, you shall present some major classes of gross cash receipts and gross cash. Also, kung sakali meron kayo nitong mga foreign currency cash flows, you shall record cash flows arising from transactions in foreign currency in the co-op's functional currency by applying to the foreign currency amount the exchange rate between the functional currency and foreign currency at the beginning of the cash flow. Dati pinag-book ito. No, hindi po ito bago-bago. Kaya still, you have to apply the same principle as well as the unrealized gains and losses arising from changes in the foreign currency exchange rate, which are the cash flow. No? Ganun pa rin po ang sinusunod natin. Okay? Now, on section 7, pertaining to interest on share capital, patronage refund and deposit free cash flows from interest on share, the patronage refund paid and received, dividend received if there is any, and of course other interest paid and received as part of operating activities. Now, for the income credit cash flow arising from income tax, and shall classify them as cash flow from operating activities. Kung meron po kayo kailangan bayaran na income tax. Now, what are the components of cash and cash equivalents? This is the same principle po. Wala po tayong ginawang pagbabago dito, no? On the inclusions or components of cash and cash equivalents. So it's just the same. Lalong-lalo na po dun sa discussion natin yesterday on the ESCA, it's just the same. The composition and inclusions of the cash and cash equivalents. Okay, now let's talk about the notes to financial statements, which is also included in the CFRF. Of course, this chapter sets out the principal underlying information that is to be presented in the notes to the financial statements and how to present them. Notes contain information in addition to that presented in the statement of financial condition, the statement of operation, the statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows. Ang ibang kooperatiba po kasi, they are not mindful on the importance of the notes. Notes is very, very important. Why? Because notes provide narrative descriptions or disaggregation of items presented in those statements and information about items that do not qualify for recognition in those statements. Kaya kumbaga additional siya para performance. Now, in addition to the requirements of this section, nearly every other section of this framework requires disclosure that are normally presented. Very important po ang ating notes. Wala tayong pinagbago doon. No? Wala tayong bilagdag o pinagdan. So, it's just the same saan na noon at saka lahat ng cooperative po ay ino-reserve pa rin. Now, how is this structure of the notes? The notes shall present information about the basis of preparation of the financial statement and the specific accounting policies used. No? Disclose the information required by this framework that is not presented elsewhere in the financial statement. So, we need to say, ladies and gentlemen, These structures comprise na inclusions, ano-ano pa ang nilalagay natin sa notes. Wala po tayong pinagbago dati pa treating po siya, no? Another one is the provision of the information that is not presented elsewhere in the financial statements, but is relevant to the understanding of any of them. No? So, a cooperative siya, as far as practicable, kasi kailangan magkaroon po tayo ng mga cross-reference of each item in the financial statement to any related information in the notes. Meaning to say, kailangan consistent tayo. Baka iba yung nasa notes, iba yung nakapresent sa inyong statement of financial condition or operation. No? So, a cooperative normally presents the notes in the following order. Ito po, no? Paano ba ang mga nilalagay natin sa notes? Una, syempre, statement that the financial statements have been prepared in compliance with the Philippine Financial Reporting Framework. Cooperative, ito po yan, no? The whole basic concepts and principles in accounting policies apply. And then the supporting information for items presented in the financial statements. Yes, ma'am?
Naputol yung sound mo kanina. Okay na ngayon.
Okay na po siya? Saan po naputol? Sige po. Siguro, I have just to, again, ito po yung presentation natin sa notes. Ito yung pagkakasunod-sunod. Meaning to say, ito yung contents and then kung paano yung pagsunod-sunod. So, again, a statement that your financial statements have been prepared in PFRF, and then kasunod po niya a summary of significant accounting policies applied. Kasunod po niya siya statement in the sequence in which it's stated, each line item presented, and any other disclosure. So, yun po ang pagkakasunod-sunod dapat ng mga inclusions and content ng ating mga notes. Now, on the disclosure of accounting policies, a cooperative shall disclose the following in the summary of significant accounting policies. Diba po kanina kasama pa ito, no, as letter B, no? Kasunod ng statement, yung summary of significant accounting policies. Now, ano-ano ba yung ating dinidisclose when it comes to accounting policies? Number one is the measurement basis or basis used in preparing the financial statements. Ano ba yung ginamit natin mga basis on this statement? The other accounting policies used that are relevant to an understanding of the financial statement. So, yun po, usually, ang dinidisclose natin of the accounting policies na ginagamit in preparing our financial statement. Now, on the information about judgment naman, dahil meron po mga subject tayo na nasa ating judgment, if you were listening yesterday, meron nasample the judgment dito, where to present our expense when it comes to advertisement. Nasa advertisement ba yan o nasa mga administrative costs or expenses natin. No? Ngayon, on the information about this judgment, a cooperative shall disclose in the summary of significant accounting policies or other notes the judgments apart from those involving estimations that management has made in the process of applying the cooperative's accounting policies and that have the most significant effect on the amounts recognized in the financial statement. Kailangan to the carrying amounts of assets and liabilities within the next financial year. Now, in respect of those assets and liabilities, the note shall include the details of the nature, the carrying amount at the end of the reporting period. No? So, yun po, wala tayong binago doon. Dati na po mga principles and permissive inclusions and observation. Kanya. Let's talk about definitely the very detail of the accounting policies, estimates, and errors. Ito po ang chapter that provides us the guidance for selecting and applying the accounting policies used in preparing financial statements. It also covers changes in accounting estimates and correction of errors in prior periods. Now, yung mga errors. Now, how are we going to treat this and prevent this? And dito po sa ating BFRF. First, in selection and application of accounting policies. These are, of course, specific principles, bases, conventions, rules, and practices applied by a cooperative in preparing and presenting financial statements. Then again, I would like to emphasize for and in behalf po ng ating mga auditors, hindi po auditors hindi ang mga po. Dahil ang mga po, supposedly tayo talaga ang gagawa at prepare ng ating financial statements. No? Magiging auditing criteria lamang ito ng ating mga auditors if you do really observe this, the principles of this framework. Now, if this framework specifically addresses a transaction, other event or condition, a cooperative shall apply this framework. However, the co-op need not follow a requirement in this framework if the effect of doing so would not be material. You don't have to. Now, if this framework does not specifically address a transaction, other event or condition, the cooperative management shall use its judgment in developing and applying an accounting policy that results in information that is relevant to the economic decision-making. It should be reliable in that the financial statements represents faithfully the financial condition, the performance, and cash flow. Still, it reflects the economic substance of transactions. They are neutral, free from bias, they are prudent, accurate, and are complete in all material respects. So just the same, wala po tayong mga karagdagan doon. Walang bago doon. No? Now, in consistency of accounting policies, a co-op shall select and apply its accounting policies consistently. No? Ganun pa rin po. Kailangan consistent tayo. Huwag yung pabago-bago ang manner of presentations po ninyo. For the changes in accounting policies, cooperatives shall change an accounting policy only if the change required by changes of this framework. So, kung sakasakali, meron pong changes dito sa framework na naapektuhan ang inyong mga accounting policy. So, kailangan po, yan po, ay present pa rin po natin, no? If required by changes of this framework or result in the financial statements providing reliable and more relevant information about the effects of transaction, other events or conditions of the co-op's financial condition, financial performance, or cash flow. So, dati na po ito, 6 na taon na po itong PFRF natin. Sana kayo naman po ay familiar na sa itong mga accounting policies na to. So, ito po, the following are not changes. No? They are not changes in accounting policies. So, it's just as a reminder and an conclusion of the framework, these are not changes in accounting policies. Ano ba yun? The application of an accounting policy for transactions, other events or conditions that differ in substance from those previously occurring. So, bago siya, hindi siya changes. And then the application of a new accounting policy for transactions, other events or conditions that did not occur previously or were not familiar. So, bagong-bagong accounting policy naman ito. So, hindi po changes ito. No? They are not regarded as changes. Now, in applying changes in accounting policy, a co-op shall recognize the cumulative effect of the changes in accounting policy in profit or loss in the period of the change. So, kanya consistent po siya dun sa concept and principle ng ESCA natin. Now, in the disclosure of a change in accounting policy, pagka meron po talaga kayong change in accounting policy, you have to disclose this one. When an amendment to this framework has an effect on the current period or might have an effect on future periods, a co-op shall disclose the following. Ano po ba yun? The nature of the change in accounting policy, the cumulative effect of the change, and for voluntary change in accounting policy, the reasons why applying the new accounting policy. So, kailangan po i-disclose natin. No? Dati na po yan. Now, how about changes in accounting estimates? Estimates naman po ito, no? This is a judgment of the carrying amount of an asset or a liability, or the amount of the periodic consumption of an asset that results from the assessment of the present status of and expected future benefits and obligations associated with assets and liabilities. Now, changes in accounting estimates results from new information or new development, and accordingly are not corrections of error. So, hindi siya correction, hindi siya error. Correct as correction of these are changes in accounting policy. From a change in accounting estimate, the change is treated as a change in an accounting estimate. Kung nalilito kayo, ano ba yan? Changes in policy or change in estimate. So, pagka mahirap kong i-distinguish yan, now the change is treated as a change in accounting estimate. Okay? So, dati na yun. I hope it is clear already. And then, a co-op shall recognize the effect of change in accounting estimate prospectively by including it in profit or loss. Ito po ay in consideration of the period of the change. If the change affects not only the period of change and future periods of the change affect. So, wala po tayong masyadong pagbabago dito, mga dati na ito, no? Medyo mahaba po ito, hanggang chapter 28, I think, kanya wala pa tayo sa kalahati. Kanya I should just give emphasis on some of the mga amendments. Nagbibigay lang po tayo ng mga konting background for those na medyo nakalimutan na natin, no? Ito kahapon, usapan po ito, disclosure of prior period errors. An entity shall disclose the following about prior period errors: the nature of the prior period error, to the extent practicable, the amount of the correction for financial statements line item affected, and an explanation if it is not practicable to determine the amount to be disclosed. No? So, financial statements of subsequent periods need not repeat this disclosure. So, kung kailan lang po natin yung error na yun. Alright, let's talk about now the financial instruments. Wala pa po tayo kasama pa rin dito sa financial instruments natin yung cash, demand and fixed term deposits, commercial paper and commercial bills, accounts, notes and loans, bonds and similar debt instruments, investment in equity. So, kasama pa rin po yan sa ating mga inclusions ng ating mga financial instruments. Now, ang scope po ng framework na ito applies to all financial instruments except po ito sa investment in associates, joint ventures and subsidiaries, financial statements that meet the definition of co-op's own equity, the leases, employers' right and obligations under employee benefit fund. So, these are exclusions po ang scope natin on financial instruments. Now, on the initial recognition of financial assets and liabilities, just the same with its initial measurement. Wala po tayong binago. No? The examples are just the same. Maintain po natin yan as well as the financial liabilities. The subsequent measurement of these financial instruments, pareho lang din po. Wala tayong pagbabago except for this investment in publicly traded securities shall be measured at fair value with changes in fair value recognized in equity. So, kahapon sa ESCA nabanggit na rin po ito, no? So, we have to recognize this in equity. So, yun po ang ating idinagdag lang naman dito sa ating financial instruments. On its the recognition, just the same principle na i-apply po natin kung kailan mo siya po pwedeng i-recognize. Wala po tayong maraming ginaw pong pagbabago dito. It's still applicable with me, no? Even on the recognition of financial liabilities. Wala po tayong maraming pagbabagong ginawa dito. Ito lamang po yung equity, no? Para ine-emphasize pa rin po natin dito that a cooperative shall disclose the carrying amounts of each of the following categories of financial assets and financial liabilities at the reporting date in total, either in the statement of financial condition or in the notes, no? Kasama po yung ating equity, no? Yan yung usapan pa rin natin ng tuwad. Okay, so other inclusions, this is the same. Debt recognition, wala po tayong binago as well as to the collateral, no? Ano ba ang mga inclusions on its collateral is the same. The carrying amount of the financial assets assigned or pledged as collateral, kailangan naka-disclose pa rin po ito. Even the terms and conditions relating to its pledge or assignment. So, because some collaterals are pledged or assigned. Kaya ibigay natin yan the word assigned in the collateral. Okay? While on defaults and breaches on loans payable, then, as well as inventories po. Sa inventories, ganun pa rin ang ating pervasive principles and concepts na ino-observe when it comes to inventory. So, wala po tayo ginawang maraming pagkakaroon dito. So, I think I have to focus on this one para po tayo ay makapunta sa mga susunod. The impairment is just the same. Recognition at an expense kung ano-ano ba ang pwede natin isama sa ating inventories, no? So, ang disclosure po dito sa inventories natin, you have to disclose the accounting principles adopted in measuring inventories. Ang ano lamang po dito, no, ang isang principle po natin na pinapatupad dito sa PFRF when it comes to inventories, as much as possible, we have to observe the 5 po, no? The first in, first out. Yan po ang isang emphasis natin dito sa ating inventories. While the investment in associates, joint ventures, and subsidiaries, wala rin po tayo masyadong pagbabago dito sa ating investment. Also on its cost model, the financial statement presentation of this investment in associates is the same. We have to classify this if it is associates, joint ventures, and subsidiaries. And then we have to disclose again the accounting policy for investments in associates, joint venture or subsidiary, the carrying amount, the amount of dividends and other distributions recognized as income. Kanya, ang dinagdag lang po natin dito, yung joint venture or subsidiary. Kasi yung dating PFRF po natin, ang nakalagay lang ay hanggang investment in associates. Kanya, idinagdag po natin dito yung joint venture or subsidiary. Now, in the investment property, this applies, of course, for investments in land or buildings that meet the definition of investment property. And some property interests held by a lessee under an operating lease that are treated like investment property. So, dati na po yan, no? Wala rin tayong masyadong ginawang pagbabago dito, including its measurement and its transfers, the disclosures, the same, no? Kailangan andyan pa rin ang kanyang disclosure. And also a reconciliation between the carrying amounts of investment property at the beginning and end of the period, showing separately yung kanyang additions, disposals, transfer to property, plant and equipment or inventory, impairment losses recognized or reversed in profit or loss, its depreciation and other changes. So kasama pa rin po ito sa ating mga That reconciliation, of course, need not be presented for product of period. Right. Now, for property, plant, and equipment, this chapter applies accounting for property, plant, and equipment. Siyempre, of course, these are tangible assets that are held for use in the production or supply of goods or services for rental to others or for administrative purposes and are expected to be used during more than one period. Hindi na po ako magpapa-break, magtutuloy-tuloy na ako dahil okay lang po ba yun? Dahil mahaba pa po ito. No? Alright, so I might as well continue na po, mamaya na siguro tayo mag-break. And then for property, plant, and equipment, do not include, hindi po kasama sa property, plant, and equipment yung ating biological assets related to agricultural activity or mineral rights and mineral reserves such as oil, natural gas, and similar non-regenerative resources. So hindi po yan isinasama sa property, plant, and equipment. Okay? Now, on the recognition of this PPE, it's just the same. Wala po tayong pagbabago ginawa dito, even on its measurement. Just the same. Pareho lang po. The measurement, of course, the cost of an item of property, plant, and equipment is the cost price equivalent at the recognition date. Now, if payment is different in normal credit terms, the cost is the present value of all future payments. So, yan po ang measurement ng cost ng mga PPE. Regarding the exchange of assets, an item of property, plant, and equipment may be exchanged for a non-monetary asset or assets or a combination of monetary and non-monetary assets. So, allowed naman po ang mga transactions. But a cooperative shall measure the cost of the acquired asset at fair value unless po, the exchange transaction lacks commercial substance or the fair value of either the asset received or the asset given up is reliably measurable. In that, asset's cost is measured at the carrying amount of the asset given up. So, kung magkano siyang nakabook up. Yun na lang po kung talagang mahirap ma-determine yung kanyang fair value. Now, yung measurement, after initial recognition, ito po tayo nagkaroon ng karagdagan. Revaluation of land may be allowed. However, the amount of land at the original cost shall be disclosed separately in the notes. Also, the appraisal increase shall be presented as revaluation surplus under equity section of the statement of financial condition. Now, this revaluation po, hindi rin po ito madali. That's why this shall be discussed under the guidelines to be issued by the authority. Kanya, hintay lamang po kayo, magkakaroon tayo ng additional guidelines on the revaluation of land. How to do it, when to do it, kung ano man ang kanyang detalye. Wait lang po tayo at mag-issue po ang authority sa atin ng guidelines on this revaluation of land. Okay? Now, on its depreciation, just the same po, given yung depreciable amount and depreciation period, yung method, just the same. Wala po tayong binago dito. In its impairment, kung paano ba siya i-impair, pareho lang po ang ating principle. Even on its recognition. The recognition may be on disposal or when no future economic benefit are expected from its use or disposal. Yan pa rin po ang ating performance when to recognize a PPE. Wala po tayo malaking ginawang pagbabago dito o wala tayong ginawang pagbabago. When it comes to intangible assets, ito po naman po yung sabi nga nila, ito yung mga pag-aaring imagine lang po natin because these are intangible. And intangible assets held by foreseen in the ordinary course of the business. So, that's this one. Now, an intangible asset is an identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. Okay? So, ang kanya pong identification is the same. Ang kanyang mga definitions is the same. Again, intangible assets do not include financial assets. at saka yung mga mineral rights and minerals. Dati na po yan. Now, on its recognition, yung kanyang general principle, pareho lang din po. Wala tayong binago on the principle ng recognition of intangible assets. Even on its measurement, even on its acquisition and exchange of assets, no? Ang internally generated intangible assets, yung po kanyang principles, pare-pareho lang po. Wala tayong ginawang pagpapago dito. Okay, so even on its amortization, residual values is the same po. Retirement and disposal of these intangible assets is just the same. Even on its disclosure, masama po yan, i-disclose pa rin po yung kanyang useful lives or amortization ratios and amortization methods. Kasama pa rin. Now, an emphasis also on the intangible assets, kasama pa rin po ang recognition or reconciliation of the carrying amount at the beginning and at the end of the reporting period, showing separately yung kanyang additions, disposals, amortizations, impairment losses, and other changes. So, dati na po dapat kasama yan kung meron mo po kayong mga intangible assets in your respective corporations. So, you have to disclose again still yung descriptions niya, the carrying amount, and remaining amortization period of any individual intangible assets. On the allocation and distribution of net surplus, now this shall be applied in accounting of allocation and distribution of net surplus. Of course, in accordance with co-ops bylaws, be mindful of your percentage of allocation. Every co-op shall determine its net surplus at the close of every fiscal year and such other time as may be prescribed by the bylaws. Again, ang concepts pa rin po ng ating net surplus, it shall not be construed as profit but as an excess of payments made by the members for loan borrowed, or the goods and services availed by them from the cooperative, or the difference of a rightful amount due to the members for the product sold or services rendered to the co-op, including other inflows of assets. Kaya pareho lang din po ang concept ng ating net surplus. Now, on its recognition and measurements is the same, I hope everybody is familiar on this, on the minimum and maximum allocation of the different statutory funds for the reserve fund, ganun pa rin. Then again, an emphasis for the first 5 years, kung bago ang inyong co-op, we still observe the first 5 years of allocating the reserve fund at 50%. Okay? While upon dissolution, ganun pa rin po ang ating regulation. Hindi po na. Ano ba ang inyong mga options? Diyan pa rin. Dati pa rin po. And then, of course, for the co-op education and training fund, the maximum allocation is still 10%. For community and development fund, not less than 3% pa rin siya. For optional fund, that's more than 7%. Pero pagka pinagsama po natin, ang community development fund and optional fund is still. They should not exceed the 10% allocation. Kung babaguhin nyo man po, yung kanyang minimum or maximum allocation,
loan application form.
Ang total ng dalawa, just an reiteration kung ano ba ang mga composition or use ng ating reserve fund. Ito pa rin po ay to absorb net losses. Pa rin, ganun din po ang ating education and training fund. Now, on recognition and measurement of this, shall be used for the stability of co-op to meet net operating losses in its operation. Wala siyang ibang purpose kung hindi to meet the net losses. Net operating losses pa rin po siya. Now, kung paano yan i-distribute kung sakaling mag-dissolve po ang isang kooperatiba, just the same thing. But then again, an emphasis on the disclosure, kailangan meron pa rin po tayong disclosure on the charging of net losses
ECPC
for the
access
operating
ang loan
period,
program
the
si naman na
utilization
siya.
of education fund, the utilization of community development fund. Kanya yan po ang itinagdag natin dito, the word utilization of the optional fund. So, yun naman po ang naging amendment lang natin dito pagdating sa statute of the fund. Of course, also the cooperative education training fund between members and officers and staff. So, an emphasis in consonance with the regulation of the authority for officers and staff be higher than the members. So, meaning to say, yung pinopondohan po natin mga education and training requirements for members, kailangan mas malaki yan yung allocated sa miyembro ang sa Now, for multi-year utilization of community development fund, the disclosure shall include the amount to be utilized for the next 12 months and the remaining unutilized portion and the so, kung ang inyong community development and ito ay multi-year ang kanyang programa, kailangan ay disclose natin. No? And of course, other things like this.
May form daw na siya.
So, yan naman po ang ating tapos for this test, ito lang word on yung kanyang in the form and rent remain equaling most of the sales proceeds at the end of the list. No? So, pagka-equal na yan, kasama po sa ating example on the page on losses. No? Other than that, wala po tayo ibang magbabago na ginawa dito, maliban dito sa kanyang disclosures, unless he shall disclose a general descriptions of the less significant leasing arrangement, including, for example. So, dun sa example po natin, isa natin yung amount of this information about contingent rent, renewal or purchase options, and escalation clauses, subleases, and restrictions imposed by this arrangement. So, yun po ang ating itinagdag sa list on its disclosure. Sa kanya. Exactly. So, itinagdag natin. Para bumabalik. Ano? Now, on its manufacturer or dealer lessors, on the lessors, it's the same principles po. Wala tayong mga ginawa pang bago dito. Again, on its disclosure, kagaya ng example na idinagdag natin doon sa previous section, idinagdag din po natin dito on the amount of non-cancelable commitment in terms of this, no? On the general description of the lessors.
Di paano mo na siya mabay?
So,
Dante, 5 years to...
So, also, ayan po, para maging consistent tayo on its disclosure, nakalagay din po yung amount. Sale and leaseback transactions, not have more provisions and contingencies. Of course, this section applies to all provisions like the liabilities of uncertain timing amount, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets, except those provisions relating to business. However, this section deals with operating leases that have become construction contracts, employment obligations. So, yan po ang ating mga inclusions dito sa provisions and contingencies. binago dito as well as its initial measurement.
Loan application.
Wala na po mga karagdagan dito or changes. When measurement, ganun po siya. Ang ating principle na sinusunod. Now, on its disclosures about the provisions of these provisions and contingencies, again, for each class of provisions, a cooperative shall disclose the following: the reconciliation showing the carrying amount at the beginning and end of the period, the additions during the period, including adjustments and results from changes in the measured discounted amount. Mga dati na rin po ito, no? Kanya sana ito ay ino-observe rin na po, pinapractice nilang matagal. Even the disclosures of any outflow of resources in settlement is remote, the cooperative shall disclose for its class of contingent liability at the report date a brief description of. Now, ano ba rin disclose yung estimate of its financial effect, indication of this, no? Now, if it is practicable to make one or more of these disclosures, the fact that shall be stated. Sabihin mo lang po.
Simple business.
So, ayan.
Business plan man dira, no?
Wala rin po dito.
Simple business plan.
Let's go to liabilities
Ay,
and
kailangan certificate ka.
this section is
Sila na
having
maghatag
financial
ng ano,
instruments as either liabilities or equity. No? Pareho pa rin po ang ating mga principles dito, ang ating discussions dito is just the same. Even the original issue of shares, pareho po, wala tayong bago dito, even yung treasury shares. Now, on the donation and grants, of course, the donation and the grants exclude those forms of assistance